Und wir gehen jetzt hier einmal hinten zu diesem Lagerhaus, ne? Oder zumindest zu dem Haus der Nagatos. Oh, ich hoffe, dass es jetzt einfach ein bisschen besser wird. So, Nagato Sashiko. Hallo.
I'm very sorry, but we cannot afford to pay what we owe right now. My husband has gone missing, and I'm still trying to find him.
No, you misunderstand us. We are here to help with the investigation. We'd like to ask you some questions about Mr. Nagato's disappearance, if we may.
Ah, I see. I thought the debt collectors had come to visit again. I'm sorry you have to see me in this dreadful state. Has some new information come out? Do you know where he's gone?
Nö, das wissen wir leider noch nicht. Genau deswegen sind wir ja aber hier.
I'm afraid we don't have any new information at the moment. We're still trying to find out as much as we can to inform our search. With this in mind, can we perhaps ask some questions about your family's current situation?
Ja, die wären auf jeden Fall hilfreich, wenn man da schon ein bisschen Bescheid wüsste, ne?
For example, Paimon's struggling to understand why a collector would be strapped for Mora.
Jetzt ist immer die Frage, was ein Sammler jetzt bei denen genau ist, ne? Also Sammler im Sinne von, so wie bei mir, ja, also ganz viel Gaming-Zeug und Nerd-Zeug und sowas sammeln oder Sammler im Sinne von, ja, ich sammle Holz und verkaufe das. Das ist ja dann die Frage, ne?
That's a long story.
Okay, nein, also
Ever
wie
since
ich.
I've known him, he's been an avid collector of all sorts of things. He'd always get so animated when he was showing them to me. I knew nothing about the items myself, but seeing how enthusiastic and excited they made him, I was happy to believe that they were just extremely important to him. Everything was fine when we first got married, but as time went by, things changed for the worse.
Uh-oh, what happened?
He lost his sense of restraint. He started buying more and more things, and even resorted to borrowing money just so he could pay for them.
Okay. Das ist dann natürlich schlecht, ne?
Our expenses really spiraled out of control when he started getting interested in weapons. It was awful. There were days when he'd spend hours down at the warehouse, admiring his weapons even as debt collectors were descending upon our house.
Hört sich schon so, ja, keine Ahnung, fanatisch an? Keine Ahnung, ich weiß es nicht. Das ist, glaube ich, wenn ein Hobby zu weit geht, dann sind wir an diesem Punkt gerade.
He wouldn't sell them, wouldn't even touch them. Just sat there staring at them like he was in a trance. I'm happy he has a hobby and I'm willing to support him, but making ends meet has to come first. I've tried talking to him about it so many times, but he never listens.
Tja, in dem Fall sollte man wohl ein bisschen Geld zur Seite legen, von dem dein Mann nichts weiß. Und ja.
On the last day that I saw him, I gave him an ultimatum. I said, if he refused to sell his collectibles and pay off his debts, I would divorce him and take the children with me.
Das ist eben auch schon eine ganz klare Aussage, dass es so, wie es ist, nicht weitergeht, ne?
Whoa!
And that led to an argument.
Actually, it didn't. Generally, he's a quiet man who likes to go with the flow. On most things, he leaves the decision-making to me. You must understand, I never would have dreamed of threatening him with divorce if the debts hadn't pushed our family to the brink.
Ja, da muss man schon verzweifelt sein. Gerade wenn es eigentlich ja gut läuft, auch in der Beziehung oder in der Ehe in diesem Fall, ne? Ist das schon eins der letzten, oder sollte eins der letzten Druckmittel sein.
After I said those words, he froze and was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, he awkwardly mumbled that he would pick out a few items to sell. His voice was so meek and pitiful that I felt an urge to take everything back. But then what? If I didn't draw the line, what would happen to our family?
Ja, du hast auf jeden Fall nichts falsch gemacht. Und es ist wichtig, eigene Wünsche auch zu kontrollieren, ne? Ganz ehrlich, ich auch. Ich will ja ganz viel Zeugs noch haben, ne? Was ich so halt eben gerne hätte. So von Collectors Editions und keine Ahnung. Aber ja, ist halt eben nicht. Ganz einfaches Prinzip. Ja, und auch wenn man sich einfach alles holt und sich da in Schulden schmeißt, ne? Ein paar Sachen sollte man ja doch schon haben, die man gerne haben wollte, also so wunschmäßig. Weil ansonsten, wenn man keine Wünsche mehr hat, ist es ja auch scheiße, ne? Daher.
Had I not indulged his bad habits, we wouldn't have found ourselves in such a predicament.
Ja, das ist wohl wahr.
And I also don't know if he had actually come to his senses, or if he was simply angry with me.
Ja, wer weiß.
The next thing I heard was that our warehouse had caught fire, and both he and the buyer had gone missing.
I see. I understand. Amin Omayuya came to purchase a weapon from Mr. Nagato. During the sale, a fire broke out at the warehouse, and both men disappeared.
At first, I assumed they must have gotten into an argument over the price.
Aber kann von einem hitzigen Streit ein Lagerhaus in Brand geraten?
But my husband has never been one to negotiate. He never even haggles when he's out buying groceries, so it's hard to imagine him getting into a fierce argument.
Maybe he was feeling the pressure from the debts?
I don't know. He just disappeared after the warehouse burned down.
Okay.
Perhaps he's too afraid to come home now that all his collectibles have been lost in the fire, and he's got no way to pay off our debts.
Ja, vielleicht. Oder vielleicht hat er so eine vorgetäuscht und ist mit der Sammlung abgehauen.
Even though I'm still a little mad at him, we're a family, and I want us to face our family's crisis together. As long as he's willing to turn over a new leaf, I know we can work things out.
Please don't get upset. There could be more to this situation than meets the eye. If collecting things is a habit that Mr. Nagato had his whole life, it is quite unusual for this habit to change so drastically over a short period.
Ja, das ist richtig.
But the information we gathered from the other side suggests Ame-no Mayuya is also a mild-mannered man who would not be likely to start an argument.
Ich bin mal raus, schönen Tag dir noch. Alles klar, schön, dass du hier warst, Legendary Player. Immer wieder gerne. Und ja, dir ebenfalls auch einen schönen Tag, ne? Ich hoffe, dass du einen angenehmen Tag hast. Ist ja auch wichtig. Gut.
A little confusing. More like completely mystifying.
Let's try a change of scenery and see if we can piece together what we've learned. Rest assured, we'll notify you if we find anything.
Ja, wenn wir ihn finden oder lebend oder tot, ne? Ihr wisst es ja, hier die Suchschriebs, da diese Steckbriefe, dann sollte das passen.
Thank you so much. I just want him to come home.
Ja, dann wird er bestimmt auf die eine oder auf die andere Art, ne? Gut, wir gehen erstmal hier weg von der und gucken jetzt mal weiter.
Based on the information we've gathered so far, I can only surmise that the sales meeting between the two men was somehow the catalyst for their disappearance. The fire at the warehouse likely played a part in how the situation unfolded, though its exact role is a mystery. Do you have any thoughts?
Ja, ist eine gute Frage, ne? Sind sehr viele offene Fragen. Wir wissen die Umstände nicht so ganz genau. Dem so ganz viel Vermutung und wildes Raten. Also wir müssen auf jeden Fall beide Typen finden, mit den beiden sprechen und dann in Erfahrung bringen, was da genau abgeht.
Well, Paimon was thinking that maybe someone accidentally knocked over an oil lamp and,
Oder einfach, ob es ein göttliches Auge war. Oder von mir ist auch ein teuflisches Auge, ist ja egal.
Nope, never mind. Paimon's brain needs to rest for a while. Over to you.
Es kam wohl zu einer Auseinandersetzung beim Handel. Der Brand sollte dazu dienen, die Wahrheit zu verbergen. Es fehlen noch notwendige Informationen.
Right. I very much agree with you. It seems highly likely that we're missing a piece of the puzzle.
Ist halt schwierig, ne?
Working off what we know so far, there are too many things that don't add up. The chances are that there are still some clues left for us to discover. One fact that I keep coming back to is that Amenoma Yuya is polite and well-mannered, while Mr. Nagato is introverted and passive. Neither seems like the type of person who is inclined towards initiating conflict.
Das ist richtig, ja. Außer halt eben wirklich, es ist irgendwie ein teuflisches Auge, was halt eben dann hier zur Eskalation führt, ne? Das kann natürlich schon
Mr.
sein.
Nagato, being heavily in debt, is also the only one of them with the potential motive to disappear after the fire. The more I ponder it, the more puzzling it becomes. Just what could have happened there?
Und das mit dem Angreifer klingt auch irgendwie unlogisch, ne?
Although the time frame seems to broadly match, no other details that we've learned seem to link the two events together. Amenoma Yuya lacks a key distinguishing feature of the attacker, namely that he is principally a practitioner of the blade testing techniques of Amenoma art, not those of the combat-oriented Ishin art.
Mhm.
Darn! We thought we could get two birds with one stone here, but at this rate, it's starting to look like a wild goose chase.
Ja, nicht so wirklich, ne?
Let's keep going, since we've come this far. If we can solve the case, both Mr. Amenoma and Mrs. Nagato will be able to get some closure.
Ja, 2 Fliegen mit einer Klappe hört sich gut an.
But where should we go now?
Beziehungsweise 3 Fliegen, weil du kannst ja auch aufatmen, wenn der komische andere Typ noch weg
Let's
ist, ne?
head out of the city and check out the warehouse. There's still a chance we may be able to find some shreds of evidence.
Ja. Es klingt nach einem Plan. Dann huschen wir mal nach da unten. Ja, auch nicht außerhalb der Stadt, sondern am Rand der Stadt, ne? Würde ich jetzt mal behaupten.
Wait. I hear something ominous in the wind.
Okay.
This must be another one of those sounds that only you can hear. As sketchy as that whole thing seems, you did put it to good use when we were chasing down that vision thief at Beto's tournament, so...
Das ist ja verlässlich.
Now I'm picking up a strong scent in addition to the sound. It's right around here somewhere.
Okay, ja, dann auf. Hinter dem Schrein? Ne? Den Gebäuden da oben?
There's nothing here.
It's gone now, but I can still sense the direction it left in.
Okay.
It felt very much like that ancient presence in Inazuma. The remnants of the Tatarigami.
Tatarigami? Ich hätte nie gedacht, dass Tatarigami hier auftauchen.
Indeed. But this unexpected spring of inauspicious energy may prove to be of benefit to our investigation. We should remain vigilant and approach slowly.
Da unten drin, oder was?
So it's an underground warehouse.
The force is definitely coming from down below.
Okay. Und woher weißt du jetzt, dass das ein Underground Warehouse ist? Sie sieht hier nur eine Klappe, eine Falltür. Kann ja auch irgendwie, keine Ahnung, ein Weinkeller oder sowas
The
sein.
source of the Tatarigami energy has long since left this place. But the residue it left behind still hasn't dissipated completely. Judging from the concentration, I would have to conclude that the Tatarigami source resided here for a very long time.
Mrs. Nagato said her husband used to hang around the warehouse by himself a lot.
It could well be that he was already under the influence of Tatarigami energy at that time.
Aber fällt das anderen nicht auf,
From what
wenn
I've been
übernommen
told,
wird?
Tatarigami does not turn all upon whom it preys into violent monsters. But most will develop a stubborn streak upon being exposed to the Tatarigami's unfulfilled will. Their interests become fanatical obsessions. Mr. Nagato had an interest in collecting to begin with. The influence of Tatarigami could explain why he became an obsessive hoarder, amassing more and more possessions, even as he put himself in grave debt.
So what should we do now? Go down and take a look?
Mhm.
Step back. I'll open the door and take a look inside.
Aber pass auf, es ist
If we
gefährlich,
don't
ne?
open this door, we can move no closer to the truth.
Lass uns doch einfach babbeln,
You
Kasua.
needn't worry. Both of us have faced far greater dangers than this. Relatively speaking, the risk here is trivial.
Richtig. Oh, man macht das mit der Hand, ja? Was denn?
What's down there?
Everything's buried in debris. I can't see anything. It looks like the fire caused a cave-in, reducing the entire warehouse to rubble.
Na, wenigstens bist du nicht verletzt, ne? Ich weiß nicht, ob das gut oder schlecht ist.
That was too scary. Paimon was so sure that the warehouse boogeyman was about to jump out at us.
Der beruhigt euch mal, der hat eine scheiß Falltür aufgemacht.
All we can do
Eine
now is keep
Bodenluke
searching in
sogar
the
nur.
direction that the Tatarigami energy source left this place. 2 ordinary humans, entangled with the Tatarigami. I fear much misfortune has already befallen them.
Lass uns einfach losgehen. Wir dürfen nicht noch länger zögern. Auf.
Yes, let's go. If nothing else, it's vital that we find out where this Tatarigami energy is coming from.
Ja, dann mir konsultieren wir den Wind,
Quiet
ja?
your mind and focus on what you sense around you.
Nee. Und das ist dieser seltsame Geruch, ja? Mal hier hinten führt das weiter. Na dann. Mal einen Blick auf die Uhr werfen, ne? Aber gut, dann.
From this point, the trail appears to split into 2.
Okay.
The main source of the Tatarigami energy continued on into the distance, but a small portion remained here and seems to be dissipating slowly.
Sollen diese beiden Teile hier Nagato und diese Anemonia Yuya darstellen?
Quite possibly.
Ja, macht ja Sinn, zuerst das Nahe zu erkunden, bevor wir uns das Ferne erkunden, ne?
Oh, look at all those belly churls. They're acting really strangely.
Something seems to be drawing their attention. Let's take a closer look. As one with wind and cloud!
So,
It's...
das ist ja.
Ugh, look at this red stuff. What is it?
Ja, Blut, Paimon, Blut, was glaubst du denn?
By the looks of it, a letter written on a piece of torn clothing. The ink is bone dry. Well, let's take a look.
Okay, na dann lesen wir jetzt mal den Brief. Ich bin Nagato. Mein Körper wurde von Amenoma Yua aufgeschlitzt. Und er hat mir auch noch mein wertvollstes Schwert genommen. Ich habe ihn immer verfolgt, aber nie eingeholt. Ich bin zu erschöpft. Ich ruhe mich hier aus. Aus meinem Bauch strömt Blut heraus. Ich glaube, das ist das Ende. Aber irgendeine unerklärliche Kraft lässt mich weitergehen. Warum hat er mein Schwert weggenommen? Ich habe ihm doch gesagt, ich würde es an ihn verkaufen. Sogar mein Lagerhaus hat er angezündet. Es tut so weh, es tut so weh, es tut wirklich unglaublich weh. Aber mir ist nicht schwindlig geworden. Ich schreibe diesen Brief, um mich ein wenig davon abzulenken. Sachiko. Yuji. Was soll ich bloß tun? Ich bin ihrer unwürdig, es tut mir so leid. Erst jetzt merke ich, wie falsch ich lag. Ich stehe bestimmt unter dämonischen Einflüssen. Bis zuletzt habe ich alle möglichen seltsamen Dinge gesammelt, aber sie brachten mir weder Glück noch Wärme. Das alles ist nicht eines ihrer Worte wert. Ich danke dir, es tut mir leid, dir so viel Kummer gemacht zu haben, Sachiko. Ja, interessant auf jeden Fall. Also er selber hat schon mal festgestellt, dass irgendwas nicht stimmt, ne?
According to this letter, a conflict arose because Ame Yuya wanted to seize a blade belonging to Mr. Nagato. Yuya started the fire that destroyed the warehouse and wounded Mr. Nagato in the fight. Mr. Nagato kept chase as long as he could, eventually stopping here to write this letter when his strength gave out.
So, where is he?
Ja, wahrscheinlich haben die Hirsche die gefressen, ne?
He was not only mortally wounded, but also under the heavy influence of Tatarigami. Add to that the fact that its aura seems to have attracted a horde of monsters, and I'm afraid he may no longer be with us.
Ja, wahrscheinlich, ne?
Whatever traces there may have been of his fate beyond after this point, they've since been disturbed by the hilly churls. There's nothing more for us to find here.
Wir sollten die Tenrio-Verwaltung bitten, später eine gründliche Suche durchzuführen. Ach, wir haben Dringenderes zu tun. Komm, scheiß auf den Typen. Nein.
Yes. Right now, we need to uncover some more important truths. If Ame Yuya is attacking other people indiscriminately, then the longer we take to find him, the more people risk meeting the same tragic end.
Right, so let's get moving.
Und wie konnte es so weit kommen? Er sollte nicht so eine Person sein, oder? Er hat dann komplett andere Charaktereigenschaften vorher gehabt.
I
Schrecklich.
wouldn't be surprised if he too fell prey to the influence of the Tatarigami.
Ja, wahrscheinlich, ne?
For a practitioner of the martial arts, the easiest desire to inflame would be their pursuit of further power and skill. All the clues that at first seemed disparate and disconnected, it seems that now we know the thread that runs between them. I have a hypothesis that, if it's correct, not only explains the series of events leading to the two men's disappearance, but also zeroes in on the attacker's identity.
Und was genau ist diese Vermutung? Wird es uns da teilhaben lassen dran?
Wait, you figured it out? So these two cases are connected after all?
I believe so. But it's something of an outlandish idea. I will only be able to confirm my suspicions once we've met him in person. On with the search. We must stay vigilant. At any point now, we may find ourselves in danger.
Na gut, Gefahr ist ja unser zweiter Name, ne? Ui, nein! Ja doch, hat gerade so geklappt. Ui! Okay, ich sehe schon, wo es hinführen soll. Auf das komische Schiff hier neben.
He seems to have stayed here for a long time.
Das so stinkt oder was?
Why here? Is there anything special about this place?
I'm not sure. But on closer examination, I sense that the aura may have lingered here at several different points in time.
Okay. Achtung.
Show yourself! It's no...
Wo ist er ja, der Freak? Na, Typen?
Kaide Harakazua. It's you, at last.
Ja, krass, ne?
Aha! So it is the same guy from before. What's your problem, huh? What could you possibly have against Kazuha?
Indeed, there should be no enmity between us. if it is Ame-no-me-yuya that stands before us. But what if instead of facing Ame-no-me-yuya, we are in fact facing the blade in his hand?
Mhm.
Now that you mention it, it is giving off a strange light.
Ja, die ganze Zeit schon, ne?
Whoa, whoa! Surely you don't mean... Are you serious?
Paimon, du wirst das Schwert ganz bestimmt nicht in die Hand nehmen.
Tatarigami energy often lodges itself within physical objects,
Ich glaub, irgendwie
then
das wird nach
works
hinten
to
losgehen.
subtly affect any living organisms in its vicinity. The blade has resided in Mr. Nagato's warehouse for many years, affecting his state of mind, or rather as a means to occupy Ame-no-me-yuya's body.
You're sharper than I thought. You've already deduced the truth of the matter. Many, many years ago, I was forged by a famed bladesmith of the Ishin tradition. I was his pride and joy. In me, he placed all his hopes and dreams.
Okay.
As a descendant of the Kaedehara clan, you should be able to guess our greatest regret.
I presume it has something to do with the
unbefriedigsten.
Raiden Gokaden.
Indeed. At that point in time, he failed to live up to the Raiden Shogun's expectations. In the end, all he could do was to flee the nation by sea on a ship bound for Snezhnaya.
Intelligente Waffen. Ist nie was Gutes, Leute. Nie.
He was a bladesmith of great renown, a master of his craft. There was nothing that he could not accomplish. All he needed was more time and a little faith. And sure enough, in the end, he achieved what he had set out to do. All of his life's work, his wisdom, his skill, it culminated in his creation of me. He not only bestowed upon me the greatest of strength, but also endowed me with a consciousness of my own.
Na ja, hätte er es mir lieber gelassen,
In
ne?
our conceit, the Raiden Shogun lost not only the single most perfect blade in the entire world, but also an irreplaceable achievement in the art of blade forging.
So... swords can become conscious and control people?
Der Paimon ist jetzt nichts Neues, ne?
The people of the time in which I was born never believed I had that kind of power. They saw me as a mere blade, a sharp and well-crafted one, but in all other respects an ordinary weapon. After the death of my creator, I decided to leave Snezhnaya and began my long quest to return to the distant land of Inazuma. Moving from one person to the next, I controlled the minds of countless hosts along the way, each bringing me one step closer to my ancestral home.
Ja, und das ist ja eine ganz schöne Strecke, ne? Wenn man mal so die Gesamtmap sich betrachtet von Teyvat. Da ist ja hier oben, da ist eine Snaya. Hier rüber ist dann irgendwo ganz da hinten Mondstadt und da runter, da unten ist sie dann irgendwo in Inazuma, ne? Das ist ja gefühlt am anderen Ende der Welt. Also, holla die
I
Waldfee.
seek but one thing. To face the full force of the Raiden Shogun's blade and prove my power. The might of Ishin art.
Ja, warum schlachtest du denn hier alle Leute? Dann geh doch einfach direkt zur Hell.
Ah, so Ame-no-me-yuya was not your first victim. Tell me, what happens to those you've possessed when you've finished using them?
My hosts? Who cares what happens to them? They are but tools that serve my mission. When they got tired, or injured, or unusable, I hopped to the next one in line. All I needed them for was to take me back to Inazuma.
You're awful.
Gutes Schwert.
After I returned to Inazuma, I decided to bide my time in Nagato's warehouse until Ame-no-me-yuya handed himself over to me on a silver platter. At long last, I'm approaching my journey's destination. By Ame-no-me-yuya's body, I have found you, and by your hand, I shall defeat the Raiden Shogun.
Ah, okay. Jetzt verstehe ich auch, was er genau vorhat. Also er will Kazuras Körper haben und zusammen mit seiner Schwertkunst will er dann mit ihm als ihm, in Klammern das Schwert, will er dann Shogun besiegen.
Kaidehara Kazuha, you stood against the Raiden Shogun's Muso no Hitotachi. There can be no other to serve as my host for what is to come. Now, give your body over to me!
Into the wind.
Time for your arraignment! Motion to compel. Yeah, don't blink. Hey!
Join me and sever that divine light!
With sword comes shadow.
Aber der Typ, der hält ja nicht wirklich viel aus, ne?
Boom, boom!
Weiter.
Not
Ich dachte, jetzt passiert hier irgendwas Tolles und der hält überhaupt nichts aus. Ja, dann hackert irgendwas anderes in Stücke. Hier eine Baum hier als Holzfäller oder so.
Your bluff's fooling no one. You've lost.
Lost? I can never lose. It is this body that has reached its limit, nothing more. Even if you defeat me here, the one who falls will not be me, but this man. He is but a puppet that can be replaced. I can take a new vessel at will.
Tja, dann schlage ich dich jetzt wohl in Stücke.
The end result is the same. I will end this wretch's life before you can lift a finger. And even if I were to lose my physical form, it is but a small setback. My consciousness shall endure.
Naja, aber wenn dein Körper, also das Schwert, in Stücke zerschlagen ist und damit ja kaputt ist und deine Seele, oder was auch immer du da hast, dieser komische Verstand, in ihm drin ist und der Körper dann stirbt, dann bist du ja komplett weg.
By any means necessary and any medium available, I shall return and fulfill my destiny!
Halt die Fresse.
Your fighting style. It is indeed the forms of Ishin art. But from your movements, I sense only hatred and arrogance, as well as a thinly veiled mania and despair.
Really? You can tell all that just from his moves?
Klar kann er das spüren, hallo?
As I've mentioned before, the forms of Ishin art convey the user's thoughts and feelings. Since the blade is currently possessing Aminome Yuya's body, its movements express the innermost thoughts of the blade. If you ask me, the mania is probably due to your desperate, single-minded ambition.
Are you trying to claim that I am helpless without you?
Ich glaube schon.
Deathbed, he passed to me all of Ishin Art's secrets. The little that you know barely scratches the surface.
Ja, aber vielleicht kann er ja seine eigenen Tricks generieren. Schon mal darüber nachgedacht?
In that regard, why
Trottelschwert.
would I ever need your help?
Naja, irgendwie
Because all
schon.
of that is in the past. I've been wondering why you've not caused more trouble in all the years that you've been in Inazuma. If you are indeed a cursed blade that can possess its owner. Now that I've seen inside your mind, everything finally makes sense. You weren't biding your time. You were... After all the time that's passed, you have grown weak. To the point that you are now unable to acquire a new host without making physical contact.
Oh, that's right. Paimon remembers now. Mr. Nagato had a habit of never touching his collectibles.
Only when Mr. Nagato witnessed his wife's distress and decided to sell his collectibles did you finally have an opportunity to reach out to Aminome Yuya and make your escape.
Schön. Schön. Also er ist schon irgendwie useless, hier das komische Dämonenschwert, ne?
And what of it?
Well, that brings me to my second point. There's a despair in you that is so strong it threatens to overwhelm you. You were determined to fulfill your maker's ambition, whatever the cost. But this ambition is too grand and too heavy for you to bear. Each step you have taken has come at a great cost. I think you realized your limitations long ago. The more you clenched your teeth and pressed forward, the greater your fear of losing everything you had achieved grew, and the more you wished to run from the truth. But the way I see it, what began as an ambition has long since become a delusional fantasy.
What would you know about any of this? I'm just one step away from achieving my goal.
Ich weiß ja nicht.
You returned to Inazuma to prove the unparalleled brilliance of Ishin art. But to make this arduous journey, you committed countless atrocities and showed a blatant disregard for human life. Even if you were to sever that divine light, is this truly the outcome that your maker would have desired?
You...
Ja, was ist mit ihm?
Sure, you inherited the secrets of Ishin art. But even as you made your journey to honor this legacy, you treated the ones who wielded you as mere tools to do your bidding.
Sehr gut, jetzt reißt ihn gerade
How
richtig
could
schön.
you possibly unleash the full potential of Ishin art when you act in perfect discordance with the principle of harmony between a blade and its bearer?
Und soll ich euch was sagen? Die Antwort ist nein, genau nicht.
Silence, you blabbering fool. I must achieve my goal. This was his life's dream and the very purpose for which I was brought into being.
Ja. Es war aber sein Ideal. Und nicht deins. Und der Sinn deiner Existenz war definitiv ein anderer und nicht Shogun zu klatschen.
I will concede that you are most perceptive. You see my predicament clearly. But you also underestimate my resolve.
And you should face reality.
Richtig.
Easy for you to say. Facing reality offers me nothing. I have no need of anything that would stand in my way. Not hesitation, not self-reflection, and certainly not your so-called reality. It is pointless to argue further, descendant of the Kaedahara clan. If you wish to save this man, then offer me your body in exchange.
How stubbornly you stick to your wayward path. I do not believe for a second that you can challenge the almighty Shogun in your current state. So let us make a bet, and I will put your strength to the test.
Oh, jetzt wird's interessant.
Surely you're not planning to agree to his demands.
Very well. Then find yourself some enemies with whom you wish to cross blades. A taste of my power will more than convince you. Once we have dealt with them, we shall proceed to Tenshukaku.
And as for your end of the bargain, if you lose, you must release Amenoma Yuya from your control.
I accept.
Do this, Kazuha!
Ach, hier er ist ein Dämonenschwert, das Menschen geistig steuern kann. Da ist das Risiko eigentlich zu hoch, aber hier komm, du machst das
This
schon.
is the only way to save Amenoma Yuya. If we don't do this, he'll forever be the Blade's puppet. The cursed Blade's strength is currently very weak, and I sense he's hesitating. This suggests his heart is still not completely devoid of honor. The power of the Tatarigami lies in intensifying existing obsessions. This is the reason Mr. Nagato and Amenoma Yuya fell prey to it. Since I don't have any similar kinds of obsessions, I should be able to put up some resistance for a while.
But even so...
Even if things take a turn for the worse, I still have you both here with me.
Okay, mich, also jetzt Paimon kannst du eher
We
haken,
have a
aber ja.
chance here to save an innocent victim. I am willing to accept the risks entailed.
Your disdain for me betrays your woeful ignorance. I agreed to this bet because there are things I wish to learn too. Now, take me in your hand.
Kazuha?
I'm okay.
Ja, der ist schon ganz schön zäh, ne?
I felt a little dizzy at first, but only for a moment. It's all right. So far, this was as I expected.
Aber hier, wenn du dich unwohl fühlst, dann sag's mir bitte sofort, ne?
I will.
Okay.
What should we do next? Have you got a plan, Kazuha?
We find some enemies. Although this blade has endured much turmoil, it probably hasn't experienced many real fights.
Ja, wahrscheinlich nicht.
If a blade built for Ishin art cannot enter a state of harmony between blade and bearer, it cannot unleash its true power. If he wants to avoid reality, then we need to fight until he has no choice but to face it. He shouldn't last long in an intense combat situation.
Wait a minute. Paimon remembers hearing about something from the Adventurers Guild.
Was hast du denn von der Abenteurergilde gehört?
Since the Takasukasa clan abandoned that secret base, it's been held by Ronin ever since.
All right. Please lead the way.
What about Ameno Mayuya?
The blade says he'll let Amenoma Yuya trail us silently. Although he hasn't regained his own consciousness yet, he is not in any immediate danger.
Na, immerhin.
Are we sure this is a good idea?
Gut, da haben wir jetzt eine seelenlose Hülle, die uns jagt.